during the tour, we went by City Hall and the Steam and Tea Kettle. That's fairly modern. It was all built up in the 60s. That area used to be called Old Scully Square, and most of the buildings looked like that Red Hat Tavern back then. It was all like tattoo parlors and taverns. It's where the sailors used to hang out. And in the 1960s, they bulldozed everything. They just wiped everything out except for that. And they put up Government Center. There was massive urban renewal here in the 60s and 70s because after World War II, Boston was falling apart. Most American cities were because of war and recession. So where we started, where Mass General is, that was a slum. It was all tenement buildings. That came down, and then they knocked down Scully Square. See, a lot of cities were falling apart, but Boston more so because of all the political corruption. We had a mayor who was thrown in jail. He never stepped down. It was James Curley. The Irish loved him because he was an Irishman. Yankees couldn't stand him. They wouldn't finance his projects. Alright, we're back in the West End. We pretty much did the whole loop of the land, and now we're going to head down the water. Yeah, there was so much urban renewal in the 60s, 70s. They went cheap with the materials and they came up with this stuff. We saw this at the beginning of the tour. The style is called brutalism. And it was a failed architectural movement from the outskirts of London. The whole idea was to make the designs really simple and to build huge open floor plans inside so that employees could stare at each other all day. What a horrible idea that is. It affected people negatively because people would rather have their own space to work. So much of a distraction. The guy who designed this, his name is Paul Rudolph, and at the time, corduroy pants were coming into style. So they had the workers hand carve all those roofs manually. They went through all that trouble for that ugly building. You can't even build like this anymore. I'd be surprised if this is here in the next 5 years or so. They want to build taller towers. There's any historic value in this building, so they can probably tear it down if they got the right clearance. Staircase on the right here. It's got a little fence in the bottom there, and that fence is there because the staircase is structurally unsafe. You can't walk on it. You might want to remember that staircase because at the end of the tour, I'm going to use it as a marker to help you walk back to Faneuil Hall in the North End. See, the thing about Boston's downtown streets is that it's really hard to find when it goes straight. Like this street here could almost be the same street that we started on over there. But it kind of like, once you get here, it kind of hooks over to the left. And it gives Boston the impression that it's bigger than it actually is. And this city is going to see a lot of changes. It's changing right now. But another few years. A lot of people are moving in, like General Electric. They're building their world headquarters here. That's a lot more jobs. That's more demand for housing. And Amazon is considering Boston to be second world headquarters. So that's the biggest employer in the world. That means even more housing. Nowadays, if you build around here, it's going to look more like this. You see this rotunda? That's built in the 90s, much nicer looking. They built this big tower over here to the right. It's going to be office space and housing. Now, all the tenements are gone from the old West End except for one. That's the building straight ahead. People still live in that creepy little building. In the year 1910, the city took a census and found that 51 people were living in that building. 50 Russian immigrants and 1 Chinese laundry worker. And you going to see this huge cable stay bridge on the right. It's called the Leonard P. Zankum Bunker Hill Bridge, or just the Zankum Bridge. He was a civil rights activist, and that leads the traffic under and out of the city. It's become a huge icon here. It's all part of that Big Dig project, completed back in 2003. On the left is the only affordable housing in the West End, Second County Jail. You can see how the windows are pointed inward so they don't get a good view. And there's the Charles River over to the right. Should be in the water in just a few minutes. And that's the nearest Green Line station right there, right ahead of us. So you'll see that name Charles all over the place here, like Charles Street, Charles River, Charlestown. He was the king when they came over here, Charles I. He was also the only British monarch to be beheaded. He was replaced by Oliver Cromwell. I had this guy from England said that he wasn't the only, but the other ones who were executed were not in power. So he was the first active king to be executed. So another guy takes over England, but he doesn't want to be king. Oliver Cromwell refused the crown. He didn't believe in royalty. So now they have no royal charter. They break the laws. They make their own laws. And that's what led to the revolution. Free trade. The trade they practiced at first was very restricted. You were supposed to trade to other countries. You should make your own coins. And here's where we started. In case you have a science. Alright, 3, pick up the ducks. Once we pass this big spacesuit, we're in the city of Cambridge. From Harvard and MIT. When they first got here, the Puritans had a piece of paper called the Cambridge Agreement. It was the law that they had to make school immediately. And that started with Boston Latin and then Harvard. Harvard was a preacher, and he left money and books to the school. It was a divinity school for young men. Boston had the first public school for like middle graders, like 7th and 8th grade age, first college, and also the first grammar school for little kids, called Mathers School. That's over in Dorchester. When I first started working here, that neighborhood across the water did not exist. It was all empty wasteland. And now they call it North Point. The newest neighborhood's in Boston. It's actually in Cambridge, technically. It's the campus of Education First, a Swedish company nicknamed EF. And they teach business, and they also teach every language. They're world leaders in educational placement. They put over 100,000 students abroad every year. Here's their business school up ahead here. And out in front of it, you'll see a big chunk of the Berlin Wall. It's just got the graffiti and the metal ring on top. It's a gift from the people of Germany to the founder of EF. Swedish guy. Very successful company. They're putting up a new campus building over there to the left. Putting that up quick. Swedish architect designed this building on their end. This is their language building. And you're going to see the biggest skate park in the Northeast over to the right. It's 40,000 square feet. It's the Lynch Family Skate Park. Tony Hawk Foundation designed it. Van Snakers helps to maintain it. And we're going to go in the water. If you look above your heads, you'll see life preservers. These are for kids. We're not going to need those ones. Those are the adult ones. We're not going to need those either. I just have to point at them. It's the Coast Guard thing. Above Joseph is a throw ring. If you fall in the water, we will save you. The front windshield can open in an emergency. We can climb to the front. Laboratories are located on the side of the duct. We have radios, we have fire extinguishers. I have a power beer hat, a bum leg, high cholesterol, and an extremely non-reactive audience. So we're at the top of the ramp right now. Joseph is going to put the propeller on. And he's